Hey everybody, it is week 7. We are getting ready to enter the last phase of Unit 1. So for you all, that means we are wrapping up Romanticism. So you do have a summative paper coming up within the next couple of weeks. So we're going to talk about that for a minute. You should already have looked at the assignment sheet for that and at the grading criteria. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and pause this video and come back after you've already looked at the assignment sheet. Here's what we're working on. For your Unit 1 paper, you're going to choose a character from contemporary culture. And of course, when I say contemporary culture, you can go back into the 70s or 80s, you know, if you want to do something to do with Star Wars or Star Trek or something like that, that's okay. But that's still, in the grand scheme of things, that's still contemporary. And of course, you can choose somebody from a movie that just came out last week, if that's what you prefer. It's entirely up to you. But what you're looking for is a character in contemporary American culture. Yes, that does knock out Harry Potter, sorry. But contemporary American culture who exemplifies the American romantic hero, because this is a character archetype that has had a permanent impact and an ongoing impact on American culture. So if you look at your Romanticism handout, your Romanticism reading, which you've had for a couple of weeks now, on page 168, you will see the characteristics of the American hero. Now, what happened is during the time period of Romanticism, up until this point, the American hero was a rationalist, of course, because we're coming out of a rational period, right? So Ben Franklin is almost the archetype of the Enlightenment or rationalist hero. He's sophisticated, he's urban, he's very educated, and he's not especially spiritual. The American romantic hero, as we've been talking all semester long, this is a pendulum that swings. Now we're swinging back the other direction. So the characteristics of the American romantic hero: he's young, or he possesses youthful qualities. So even if he's not necessarily a young person, he behaves as a young person would. A good example of this, in spite of his age, look at a character like Rain Man. He's older, but in many ways he's like a child. That is a youthful quality, even if the character isn't especially young. He is innocent and pure of purpose. So this ties into being young. Once again, he doesn't have to necessarily be young, but he is innocent. He is unmistakably a good guy, or at least he means to be. He has a sense of honor that is just his own. He doesn't care about society's rules, but he has a good code of honor for himself. He has a knowledge of people in life based on his own intuition, as opposed to an education or a lot of formal learning. He's a very intuitive character. truth from intuition. And I'm sure you can see how all these things line up with romanticism, which we've been talking about now for a few weeks. The American romantic hero loves nature. And or rejects civilization. He prefers natural living to town living. If you look at a character like Shane, if you're a fan of old westerns, or if maybe your mom or dad is a fan of old westerns, Shane is a good example of this. He comes into the town, he cares about the people, but he can't stay there because he's a creature of the prairie, not of the town. And in that natural world, the American romantic hero quests for some higher truth. So, those are your characteristics. And what we're going to be looking at in this summative paper, 750 words, that's about 3 pages, give or take. What you're going to be looking at in this paper is the intersection of this list and some American character. It can be a fictional character. It can be a real person. I mean, if you look at what Thoreau did, was cast himself as an American romantic hero in his memoirs. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to be probably looking at a fictional character. I am going to do Jake Sully. Briefly, just to give you kind of an idea of what you'll be doing, I'm going to briefly outline the kind of paper I would do over Jake Sully. Jake Sully is the lead character in Avatar, and if we were in the classroom anytime this semester, we would be watching Avatar together. As it is, I'd love for you to get to see it, so if you have Disney Plus, it is a Disney movie. Go ahead and watch it. It's a good movie. It's fun. It's like a science fiction movie, fantasy movie. So if you get a chance to watch it, great. And most of you have probably seen it. It came out when you were young. But just in case, I just want to give you a kind of a taste of how this paper would work. Does it prevent you from using Jake Sully for your paper? Yes, I'm afraid it does. But that's okay, because there are so many other choices. So, I've got my characteristics here. Youthful, innocent, a sense of honor beyond societal rules, a sense of truth from intuition, loves nature and rejects civilization, and quests for some higher truth in the natural world. So those are my characteristics. Not all 6 of those are going to apply to Jake. For one thing, well, he's not an old guy. I think it would be tough to argue that he's young, because he's been in the military for a long time and he's very jaded. So I'm going to say, okay, these 2 don't really work for me. Not that I couldn't make an argument for them, but there are others that are much, much easier. So I'm going to choose a sense of honor outside of societal rules, a sense of truth from intuition, and a quest for some higher truth in the natural world. Those are the 3 characteristics that I'm going to choose. If you have chosen a different character, you may choose 3 different ones. And for me, when I get up into my paper, I'm going to have to justify these things. If I'm going to say he is a romantic hero, I'm going to have to say, well, I'm going to have to admit, let me put it that way, that he may not be as innocent and pure, for instance, as a traditional romantic hero. But that doesn't mean he's not still cut from the right cloth. Okay? That's how we do acknowledgement and response. We've talked before about acknowledging opposing viewpoints. In a paper like this, that's how you do it. You say, now, admittedly, the traditional American romantic hero is innocent and pure, and Jake probably doesn't check that box, but look how many other boxes he checks. That's how you do acknowledgement and response. That's how you handle opposing viewpoints in a literature paper like this. So, these are my 3 characteristics. For each one, I would want at least one piece of evidence from the movie. So if I'm going to say he has a sense of honor that goes beyond societal rules, I can talk in my paper about how he rejects orders from a superior officer, because this is a military man. That's his sense of honor, rejecting rules. So I use that example to support my contention that this is a characteristic he has. A sense of truth from intuition. There, I think I would like to use the scenes where he is learning to navigate through the jungle, because that's not something you can really do with your head. And they spend a great deal of time in the movie where he is learning to move through spaces he's never been in before, and he has to do that using his own intuition. There are even specific lines where Sigourney Weaver's character talks about what a good sense he has of his own body, given the fact that he's permanently disabled. These are all intuitive. And he quests for some higher truth in the natural world. There, I'm probably going to talk about how, through the course of the movie, Jake learns the ethics and values of the indigenous people on Pandora. That's the planet that they're on. And how he comes to understand that higher truth, how he comes to appreciate not just the Na'vi people, but the planet and the trees and all that sort of thing. That's questing for a higher truth in, even though it's a fantasy nature, it is what passes for the natural world on Pandora. And that is basically, that is as simple as what my outline could look like right there. I'm going to ask you to do an outline. I am not somebody who's a big stickler for Roman numerals and letters and numbers. Now, you're going to have professors who will be. So this is always a question you should ask. How formal do you want that outline to be? In my case, I want to know you've thought through this. I want to know you have considered at least one piece of evidence, and probably you're going to need more, but at least one piece of evidence for each characteristic that you're planning to use. Could you use all 6? Absolutely, and there are some characters where all 6 would work beautifully. Could you limit yourself to 3 like I did? Sure. But either way, if you're going to use a characteristic, I want to make sure that you have thought through a piece of evidence in your movie, television show, video game, book, whatever you're using, that you have at least one piece of evidence to support that characteristic all the way through. And that's all we're doing. It's not a very complicated, all the hard work comes of combing through whatever work you choose and finding evidence to make these connections. So you've got a couple of days now before you have to come up with kind of a topic proposal. I just want to make sure you choose somebody who's going to work. And then by the end of the week to have an outline, and then we'll start actually drafting and sharing our papers with each other. By the way, word of the week, if you would like to use it in your topic proposal or in your outline, I will give you 10 extra points on your lowest quiz or response paper grade. Word of the week is exemplify. That should be easy to use in your topic proposal or in your outline. If you have any questions, you know where I am. I'll be happy to help you. I hope you're staying safe this week. I'd love to see your smiling faces. So try and stay in, be safe, and let's see if we can't get back in here. Thanks.